What's up, everybody? KleverKrok back for Season 4 of the GTA. And this week, we are going to cover the preseason power rankings for each of our teams. We have one returning team from Season 1, 11 returning teams from Season... well, maybe it's 10 returning teams from Season 3, and then 3 new coaches, completely new to the GTA. So I got a good mixture, and I think the draft turned out really well. I think everybody definitely improved in their draft. And so we'll go ahead and jump into that. But first, I'd like to introduce our analysts for today. We've got Jasperious, coach of the Richmond Raikous.
Hey.
Justified 18 of Because I'm Zubatman.
What's up?
And Big Dan of the Charmillionaires.
What's going on?
Alright, so we'll go ahead and jump into it. Just so those of you watching know, we're going to start with Justified, then go to Big Dan, then Jasperious, and then myself. And we're going to just start at 14 and work our way down to who we think had the best draft. So, without further ado, Mr. Justified, take it away.
All right, coming in at 14th on the list for me, I have the Minnesota Muffs. I have my likes for them is Slurpuff. I do like him as a physical sweeper. And don'ts, I found a lot of weaknesses. I thought that their team doesn't hold up particularly well to a physical or a special sweep. So that's why they're coming in at 14 for me. Go out and prove me wrong, guys.
All right, Big Dan.
For 14th, I had Feladay. I just felt like their team was very counterable. I liked Latios and I liked Mega Gyarados. Also Ferrothorn, but besides that, like Skunk Tank and Dedenne and Volbeat and Beartick, I just don't see them as really that useful. That's all I gotta say.
And then Jasperious.
I've got the Gengars coming in at 14. And I put them at 14 just because I really don't see a way of defogging except for maybe Xatu. And if you're running Xatu, then you're probably just going to have Magic Bounce anyway. But they also have a really bad weakness to Grass, which can be exploited easily. I like the Gengar pick and the Nidoking pick, but just everything else is very susceptible to Grass.
Alright, well, I'll get into this in a little bit when I talk about the Gengars, but I actually didn't have any of what you guys suggested or mentioned for your 14th pick. I had the Parasects for 14, and it's for a few different reasons. I based some of my criteria off of the following. So, common weaknesses, whether they have the ability to set up hazards or to remove hazards. If they have dedicated physical special walls or sweepers, if they have any sort of type core or essential immunities, or just having essential types that work really well in the draft format. And after looking at it, the three fighting types on the Parasects team really, and those being really important attackers for his team, all having that weakness to Psychic and only having Slowbro as a true answer for those Psychic attacks. I mean, he has Zweilous, but it's not exactly something that you would switch in on a Psychic attack. And so he's got those 3 kind of redundant fighting types, which even though I really like Mega Heracross and Infernape is good too, I think it's a bit too redundant. He's got about 7 to 8 usable players, but other than that, it just didn't really stick out to me. He also has kind of a slow team. I mean, he has a few Pokemon that can be fairly fast, but not all that much. And he's got a little bit of priority, which was good. He doesn't have any sort of type core, so he's got Dragon and Fairy, but no Steel, and he's got Fire and I think Water, but no Grass. And then the biggest thing that put this back ahead of some of the other ones was not having a normal immunity or a poison/toxic immunity. Because he doesn't have a poison or steel type, and he doesn't have a ghost type, and not having a ghost type isn't terrible, but when you have rapid spin being a main way that people get rid of hazards, it's kind of an important thing to have. He doesn't have an electric type as well, which is typically something you want on your team. I mean, okay, I don't know why I put that. He has Raichu. Must have missed that. But he doesn't have a steel or poison type, which I also feel like is pretty good. So, other than that, that's all I've got for the 14th pick. So, Justified, do you want to go on to 13th pick?
Absolutely, sure, sir. And I have the Maple Grove Gengars at 13. I like their special sweepers, Nidoking and Gengar. The reason that they're still low is because those two special sweepers unfortunately share a type. And I also see a whole lot of holes. So I think that they're very susceptible to being swept. They didn't really have much in the way of removal. So, yeah, again, go out, prove me wrong.
All right, Big Dan?
I had the New England Parasects for 13. I just felt like they had a few usable Pokemon like Exploud, Togekiss, Slowbro, but then they had Pokemon mixed in there like Gligar, Throw, Butterfree, Zweilous, Dragonair, and Wigglytuff. They just really aren't strong Pokemon. But, I mean, they do have Mega Heracross, so I don't know. Hopefully they prove me wrong.
All right, Jasperious?
For my 13, I'm going to have a Felidae for a very, very common weakness in ice. When you've got Zygarde, who's 4 times weak, Latios, who's 2 times, Whimsicott, Breloom, and Flygon. I think Breloom is. If not,
Yes.
then yeah. It's just so many Pokemon on his team are weak to ice, which isn't a very common type, but still can be used by so many Pokemon. He's got great, just Mega Gyarados is a monster, but with his supporting cast, it's not the best in my opinion.
All right. Well, for 13, I had the Maple Grove Gengars for a few reasons. The one thing that I will point out that you mentioned, Chase, was that he does have Xatu as his only defogger, but Kabutops does get Rapid Spin, so he does have a more formidable set of hazard removal, but it really didn't affect where he fell on my roster all that much. His team is fairly slow. I mean, he's got a couple Pokemon that are fast or have priority, which is good. But he's pretty weak to ice. He really doesn't have something he wants to switch and knock off in on, except for maybe Steelix. But Steelix doesn't get recovery, really, so it's not like something you necessarily always want to switch in on. And then Grass and Water, honestly, is not something he really likes all that much either. So he kind of has options as far as physical and special sweepers go, but I just see kind of some redundancy in the picks that he chose. And he doesn't have a type core, kind of like the Parasects, which is ultimately why he fell so far back, is he has Water and Grass, but no Fire, and he has Steel and Fairy, but no Dragon. I will say that by no means does one of these cores that I'm mentioning determine whether a team is good or not, but it is something that to consider when you're building a team is the types and how they interact. And Grass, Water, Fire is a really good core, but also Dragon, Steel, Fairy is a really good one as well. So I'll throw that disclaimer out there. And he also has no electric type, which, again, what I tried to say about the Parasects before I realized he had Raichu is that electric types are just really good, especially fast electric types, and his team doesn't appreciate it all that much, especially if it's a dual type. So that's all I've got for that. So, Justified, do you want to talk about your 12th pick?
At 12, I have the New England Parasect, and it's a little redundant, but for most of the reasons you guys said before. Under likes, I have that their team is consistent. Under don't, I have, unfortunately, most of it. So, again, your chance to go prove me wrong.
All right, Big Dan?
I picked the Laprases for 12. They got a few good Pokemon. Just a lot of Pokemon that can only be ran a certain way. And I feel like there are ways to stop all of their Pokemon. I don't know, I guess it's just... there's no way to really change their team around, I feel like. But maybe I'm wrong.
All right. Next, we got Jasperious.
Yeah, for my 12th ranking, I put the Parasects for the sheer fact that they have Mega Heracross, and Mega Heracross is a monster. If they had any other Mega, except for maybe Caesar or Metagross, they would probably be lower on my list.
All right, and then for 12th on my end, as you guys are talking too, I find it funny that I'm slightly questioning my rankings. But I actually had Erebus for a few. Honestly, I really liked their roster when I first looked at it, but as I started to consider some of the criteria for which I would rank these things was he has nothing that can absorb a burn. I mean, he does have Pokemon that don't mind getting burned necessarily, but he has no fire types. And that's kind of a big deal, especially with Megalopunny and Gallade, and even Virizion. And, you know, that's just, to me, I think that's a big deal to, like, be able to burn them and not have something that can just handle a burn all that well. He also doesn't really appreciate, his roster doesn't appreciate knockoff very much. And he has, I think, one ground immunity, and it's Levitate, so anything with Mold Breaker and Earthquake can have fun with this team. Virizion does resist ground, obviously, but it's just, I find that a crucial flaw when a team has, you know, essentially no true ground immunity, which he has his ways of getting around it, but I think that's a big deal. He also, the other thing that really kind of put him where he's at is he has no hazard removal, and that's a big deal. Even though he has a good hazard setter in Shuckle, the hazard removal, not having that is pretty rough. He has no electric immunity as well, which is kind of a big deal. And I think I already mentioned that that he has no ground type either. But he does have the Dragon Steel Fairy Core, which to this point in my roster is the first core at all that's been... So he did have something there that stood above the rest. But other than that, I mean, I do like this team. There's a couple really important things that need to be, like, formed in some way on a draft team. So, I guess that's it for me. So go ahead and go on to number 11... Justified?
Yes, sir. At 11, I have something that I wrote down. Okay, here we go. I have Felidae. Under likes, I have their top 4. So those 4 being, let me click back here. I like Ferrothorn, Zygarde, Gyarados, and Latios. I really like them. And under don'ts, I have mostly everything else. Breloom, I do like. And Whimsicott I do like, but unfortunately they share a type, and so cannot be really brought together without opening yourself up. And so that leaves them with a lot of Pokemon that I think are very difficult to run and competitive the way it is now.
All right. Big Dan?
My 11, I got the Honages. Um, they do have some good Pokemon in Mega Alakazam, Dragonite, Bisharp, Excadrill. I just see there's a lot of Steel, um, a lot of Ice weakness, I feel like. Two that have double Ice weaknesses. Most of their team doesn't like being burned. Just there are ways to get around it. Plus, with Bisharp and Excadrill both being some of their best Pokemon, that's two Steel types right there. Lucario as well. But I think they could probably make a good core 6 and stick to that. But it just gets predictable.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then Jasperious.
For my 11th pick, I put Erebus. I really like their core, their Fairy Dragon Steel core, but I noticed that they have no way besides Shuckle of taking a physical hit. Gujar, you can slow them down for a little bit until they switch out, but I don't see any other Mon being particularly defensive besides Shuckle. I love Megalopony, and that's a big reason it's at 11 and not lower. And it's just for a lot of the reasons that everyone else said as well.
All right, and then for my 11th, I had Feliday. So kind of what, excuse me, Justified said. They have strong 5 Pokemon, but the rest aren't really useful. He has a pretty significant fairy weakness. I mean, obviously he has Ferrothorn, but other than that, I mean, his other 3 big OU picks, Zygarde, Mega Gyarados, and Latios, don't like fairies. Skuntank doesn't resist fairies because it has that dark typing. Flygon and Mienshao and Breloom, the only other, in my opinion, usable Pokemon on his team, also all resist fairy. And that's kind of a big deal. Obviously, fairy's not as common, so it may end up working out, but I think that was a pretty crucial thing. And then also not really having, too many options among his, top 5 or 6. He does, have, hazards and hazard removal, physical and special sweepers. He has that Dragon Steel Fairy core. But he also, I noticed, has no Ghost, so Rapid Spin, even though I guess Ferrothorn punishes people for Rapid Spin, so I take that back. But other than that, I mean, I don't think he'll be bringing Dedenne, and if he does, it may not do very well. So not having a solid electric type, in my opinion, is another reason why he got pushed back further. So we'll go ahead and go on to the 10th picks. So Justified.
At number 10, I have the Wobbuffets. I like their wall core and Mandibuzz and Tentacruel. Unfortunately, Tentacruel doesn't have much access to recovery, but as a special wall, he's still a beast. Under don't like, I have Ice in all capital letters.
All right, and then Big Dan.
For my 10, I have the Charizards. They have Victini. Diance's pretty good. Chestnut is playable. Tyranitar is really good, but also Jirachi and Espeon. But then you have Articuno, Axelgore, Dugtrio, Pokemon that are very situational. Not very easy to bring every week or even most weeks. And I feel like they're going to end up having a pretty similar team most weeks.
All right. Jasperious.
For my 10th, I've got the Mux. I really like the fact that they have Starmie for a really nice rapid spin. But I also see that they have a lot of fighting weaknesses. And Another thing is that Mega Aerodactyl hits like a tank, but it also is very frail in the ice department, which is a very common theme in this draft. So that's kind of the reasons why I have him at 10.
All right, for me, I had the Honages for a couple reasons. This is where it starts getting a little ambiguous for me, at least for the next 5 or 6 picks. So I noticed that, he has kind of a glaring fighting and ground weakness, even though he has those 2 immunities in Braviary and Dragonite. In fact, let me see. I think, he also has Rotom. He still doesn't really he doesn't have a Pokemon, if those are down, that can take an Earthquake. Torterra maybe, but he doesn't really have recovery. So that's something that stuck out to me. Fighting was also a bit of a concern because of those 3 Steel types, though they're all good. Mach Punch isn't pleasant. Let's see. The other, I did like that they had a Fire, Water, Grass core. It's not necessarily the best, but they do have it, and those Pokemon do have options in some ways. Slowking is really good, and it's demonstrated that. It has most of the immunities that I would think that a team, a decent draft team would need to have, being an immunity to ground, electric, normal, and poison/toxic. So there's just, a little too much of common themes with the 3 Steel types, the 2 flying types, and stuff. Nothing really wants to take ice attacks, but he does have some ways of handling that. So that's why I put him at 10. So, moving on next to the 9th picks, Justified.
At number 9, I have the Honedges. I have them there because I like their physical power. Bisharp, Braviary, Lucario, Dragonite, that's a scary group right there. And they have 2 pretty good special sweepers in Mega Alakazam and Raikou. The issue comes in the other Pokemon, with Rotom, Slowking, Regirock, Torterra, and Torkoal really lacking to create a good wall core. So I have them as a scary team with sweepers, but they have a lot of holes as well.
All right, Big Dan.
For my number 9, I have the Gengars. I feel like they have some pretty strong special attackers in Gengar, Nidoking, and Sylveon. Also, they mix in a few attackers with Machamp, Kabutops. They have Walls and Mega Steelix and Gastrodon, a Spinner and Kabutops. I think they got the makings of a pretty good team. They also had a few picks that I think were kind of useless, like Vileplume, without Sunny Day, and I don't think there's any Sunny Day users on that team. He's kind of useless. He's slow and doesn't have great HP, doesn't hit real hard. But other than that, I think he's got a pretty good team. Also got a Magic Bouncer in there too. So
Magic Bounce OP. Just watch season 3.
Yeah.
Jasperious.
Yeah, number 9, I've got the Honedges. I just see a lot of Mold Breaker ground weakness. And I mean, the most common Mold Breaker ground user is Excadrill, which he has. But if something else were to come along, say Rampardos, which isn't that fast or isn't even really that viable, it still knows Mold Breaker and you can still get Earthquake, and you could just destroys Rotom and Raikou, Lucario, Bisharp, maybe even Excadrill. And another thing is that their core really isn't that good aside from Slowking. Torterra just demolished by ice, and Torkoal, if you have Stealth Rocks up, is not the best spinner. out there, which is probably why he has Excadrill.
Alright, and for my number 9, I had the Minnesota Mucks. So, some of the stuff you guys mentioned, made me think a little bit about it. But, the fighting weakness was the first thing I saw. But when thinking about what he has to answer that, the only thing that really put him at number 9 for me was not having a ghost type. If he had a ghost type on his team, that fighting weakness might have been a bit more manageable, while having Starmie as well and Slurpuff. They can soak fighting hits, and so, but he didn't, and so that's kind of a problem that he had there. He also has no electric immunity, and with your Mega being weak to electric, that's kind of problematic. He has no ground type, obviously, which is why I said no electric immunity, so not having a ground type is kind of rough, too. He also, his only rock setter is Mega Aerodactyl, and I believe that's, other than Starmie, is his only method of hazard removal, too. So that puts a lot of stress on which roles that Mega Aerodactyl has to be as well. But he does have a decent Firewater Grass core in Roserade, Pyroar, and Starmie. The only thing I would say is it's a bit frail defensively. I do like Snorlax and Slurpuff because Slurpuff can, just as a bulky offense, can still eat up physical, fighting type attacks. So it has the makings of a decent team, and I think Sal can really pull through and show us, what he can do with it. But there are going to be quite a few challenges along the way, I think. So next, we're going to go ahead and go on to number 8. We'll start with Justifred.
Alrighty. Number 8, I have Erebus. I like Florges Magnezone and Gudra Core. Alright, that's Dragon, Steel, Fairy. Florges makes an excellent special wall. Gudra can be used as special attacker slash special wall. You talked about them having a burn problem, but Florges does act as a cleric. That's why they're as high as they are. I have that there is no real fire or water on that team, and they really only have a couple of special attack options, and that's in Gudra and Magnezone. Besides that, none of their team really hits really hard on the special side, so they have the potential to get walled.
All right, Big Dan.
I had the Minnesota Mucks. I like that they have Starmie. I think he's great. Porygon 2 is pretty good. I like having Malamar. Just with the contrary, he's always fun. Slurpuff is great. Mega Aerodactyl, I think, can be used well. After that, Electros is all right. Pyroar is all right. Tauros is all right. I think the rest of their team's okay. I don't think they have unplayable picks, but I don't think they have really strong picks besides those.
All right, Jasperious.
For my 8th pick, I'm going to go with the Wobbuffets. There's a lot of ice weakness, which has already been brought up. And Mega Blastoise is very good, but if you get somebody like Special Wall, then you're kind of just stuck there. Kyurem Black is a monster, but it's also easily walled as well. Tentacruel is great. He's got a lot of rapid spin support. It's just his ladder picks in Magnetar, Barbicle, Lilligant, not the best. Although he does make a core, I believe. Yes, he does. He makes a couple cores, and with a couple different Pokemon, it might rise in the rankings. So hopefully he does that with some trades.
All right, and for my number 8, I had the Cincinnati Charizards. So the first thing I noticed was Scald. Scald is like the bane of this team. I mean, it's not entirely, but like he has Lapras with Water Absorb, but Scald like just really sucks for his team because the combination of Burn and his Water weakness, outside of having to bring Lapras for that, is kind of painful to think about. Also, he has one immunity to ground, and you know that's also his defogger, his way of getting rid of hazards. But that's Articuno, and if rocks are already up, then it's gonna miss. It's gonna lose half of its health by coming in, and then it still has to be able to outspeed and defog. So like, I just feel like hazards can be kind of a problem for this team. But on the other hand, he does have some priority, some options for mixed stuff. He has Doug Trio, which is pretty fun. Jirachi is good. He definitely he has his Fire Water Grass core in Mega Sharpedo, Chestnut, and Victini, which I think is a pretty good offensive core as well. But he has no normal immunity, again, no ghost, and being able to have all these options to set up hazards like he does, it's best to have ways to prevent the opponent from doing that. He also has no electric type, which is, again, kind of a big deal, which is why I've put him at 8. But other than that, I do like his bulk. I do like his options for hazards, his options for... he has Espeon with Magic Bounce, which I guess I didn't mention, but it's not the most reliable way of preventing hazards. But I do like some of the offensive threats he has, and I'm interested to see what he does with it. Alright, next we're going to go to the 7th round of picks. So we'll go ahead and start with Justified.
Coming in at number 7, I have Lambit Lapras. I love some of their picks. I love Salamence. I love Bronzong. I love Darmanitan. Love Cofagrigus. Love Granbull. Those are all great picks. And I don't really have an issue with any of their other picks. I was very tempted to put this team higher. The only issue that I have is some of these Pokemon take a lot of creativity to run well. And with this being their first season, I'm not sure they'll have to show that to me. Maybe they will. But, I like the team. I was really tempted to put it higher. But we'll have to see as the season progresses.
All right, Big Dan.
For my 7, I have the Wobbuffets. A few Pokemon that I liked out of theirs were Kyurem, Gliscor, Mega Blastoise, Magmortar, and Conch. I feel like he's always, at least when I played him, was good at running stuff that I didn't expect. And I feel like he's got some Pokemon that can become sweepers unexpectedly. But I'm excited to see how he runs some of these Pokemon.
All right, Jasperious.
For my 7, I've got the Charizards, and I really would like their the Feehaw to succeed with their Mega Sharpedo, and to see Victini just dominate the entire league. Unfortunately, Victini is it's pretty much his best sweeper. He's got Jirachi, which is all right. Well, I guess it's better than all right with its Serene Grace, and you can flinch everything to death, which is very annoying. But Articuno is its only way of defogging, and it takes 50% on impact. And you can't do anything after that. You could just wait out your death, and then they'll get Stealth Rocks up again. It just seems like a really bad defogger to use.
Yeah. So I actually had the Wobbuffets at number 7, and I really liked his lineup. Ice is kind of a weakness for him, with all the flying types and stuff. But Tentacruel is a good answer for that. Mega Blastoise is a good answer. Barbaracle can be. Magmortar can be. It is kind of a problem for him, so he will be forced to have to play that way. Even Kyurem Black takes neutral ice attacks, so it's not like necessarily the best, thing for him, but he does have some priority. He has some attackers that can hit really hard in Conch. Magmortar can even hit really hard. Mega Blastoise and Kyurem Black all stand out to me. Heliolisk can do really good. It seems like as far as offensive stuff goes and the way he can run stuff, that he's got some variety, but there is some overlap, I think, as well with the duplicate flying types and stuff. But I did notice that he had hazard setters, hazard removal, physical and special walls, and physical special sweepers, firewater, grass core. He doesn't have a ghost, but he does have a ground type. He has an electric type and a dark type. And then he also has a poison type to prevent, And he also has Gliscor, who has poison heals, so Toxic won't be as annoying for his team. That's why I had him at 7. So next, we're going to go ahead and go into the 6th picks. Justified.
Coming at that number 6, I have the Richmond Raikous. I love Volcanion, Superior, Landorus, Latias, all great things. And I love Mega Scizor and Clefable. The rest of the team, I think, struggles. I struggle with Archeops, especially with the Defeatist, Zebstrika, Sock, Avalugg. I think all of them struggle heavily. And of the 4 that I named that I love, 3 have an ice problem. So I do like the team overall. I think Mega Scizor does a good job of covering for an ice problem. But I think that you have a problem when 3 of your top Pokemon have an ice problem, and some of the other Pokemon, I think, do struggle to compete. So, number 6, Richmond Raikous.
All right, next we've got Big Dan.
For my 6, I had Erebus. I love Megalopony, Glade, Magnezone. Virizian's good. I think they have some good hard-hitting Pokemon. Zoroark is good for some shenanigans. Florges, a good special wall. I think they got a good core in here. Absol I struggle with. Just feel like there's not a whole lot of ways to run him without him being a Mega. But, I think they got the makings of a good Pokemon, or a good team, and some Pokemon that can run some unexpected things.
All right. And then Jasperious.
At my 6, I have the Lapras. I really, really like Mega Manectric. Its speed is phenomenal. It's got great, it's an electric type, so it's already got one weakness to ground. You can just switch in. I think Claydol has Levitate. Salamence is a very nice check to it. It's well rounded, but like Big Dan's like Justified said, it's got situational Pokemon.
All right, and then for me, I had the Lapras as well. At first, when I first looked at them, I was like, oh man, I really want to put this team in the top 4, to be honest, but I started thinking about it, and he's got strong variety of options as far as sweepers and bulk goes for his walls. He's got some. He doesn't have any priority as far as you would want to actually consider. I'm sure there's ways of him running priority, but it's nothing that sticks out, and that can be kind of a pain, especially since most of his roster isn't that fast. Darmanitan is fast with the Scarf. Manectric is obviously fast. Salamence can be fast with a Scarf or just with D-Dance, Celebi. But, like, none of it really stands out to me. I prefer to have at least 2 Pokemon above 105 speed on my team so that it outspeeds some of those 100 speed stat Pokemon. But he doesn't really like knockoff all that much, especially on his tanks, you know, like he has Granbull and Drapion, who are probably his best methods of dealing with knockoff, but I feel like knockoff really harms his momentum if he were to utilize his strongest Pokemon in his draft. And that can cause issues, I think, for him during the match. But he does have, and this is what I noticed first, honestly, was that he has a Firewater Grass Core and a Dragon Steel Fairy Core, which is the first that I've mentioned thus far. And he has all the immunities that I look for and the essential types that I look for to have on your team. So among those things, it's a very good draft, but since he's new and he may not really know much about how it works, I wonder if he's going to have the ability to flex his... have the flexibility to run different things each week. So next we'll go ahead and go to 5th picks. Justified.
Breaking into the top 5, I have the Cincinnati Charizards. I know of the previous things we've mentioned. Hazards are a problem. I know that the only defog that we mentioned before is Articuno, but I think you guys are forgetting Espeon. That's why I've got this guy in the top 5. He does have a Magic Bouncer. Mega Sharpedo, I'm not a huge fan of, but the rest of this team I love. Victini, Nidoqueen, Diancie, even Chestnut, Tyranitar. That whole team hits hard. So does Jirachi. The water thing is definitely a problem for him. There's no getting around that. But I think that he has a chance to really hit hard with this team and hit hard early with a Magic Bouncer, gain momentum early. So I think this team, a lot of its matches will be decided in the first few turns, but I also think that they have a chance to win a lot of games this year.
All right, Big Dan.
For my 5, I had the Alakazams. I liked Heatran, Mega Sceptile, Thundurus, Azumarill, Trevenant, Weavile. I think they got some real good Pokemon. The one I struggle with is Garbodor because he literally is garbage. But
sorry, that was a really good comment. I liked it.
But I mean, besides that, he's got a real good team. I love Trevenant, so I don't know. I'm excited to see how he runs this team. He's also got a spinner. Yeah, I'm excited to see how he runs it.
I will take responsibility for Garbodor since I was responsible for picking that for him. I just thought that he might be able to use a Toxic Spike Setter, but I see what you're saying though. I just thought I'd throw that out there so people know it's my fault. Jasperious, you're up next.
For my 5th pick, I also have the Alakazams. I really like Heatran. I really like Fortress and Thundurus T and Azumarill. Runikless is fantastic, as is Weavile. They have a fantastic making. Ooh, and a lot of Pokemon that can switch in. I just don't get Mega Sceptile. It's fast. It's good special attack. But why? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me when there's other good Megas out there to pick up Mega Sceptile. Metagross is still left. It's so much better, in my opinion, at least. With all the steel, though, I guess it might not be the best pick, but he could have gotten rid of Fortress and found a different setter. I even think Seismitoad can set. So he's already got his steel with Heatran. He doesn't need Fortress. And he could have, a good Mega that has its fire weakness patched up by Heatran.
Alright. The only thing I'll add is that he wouldn't have he'd have to find another way to do it, but I don't think that he would have a rapid spinner without Fortress.
He has Hitmontop.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. I stand corrected. So, moving from that correction, I will put the Charmillionaires at 5th. And this is where it gets like, I literally spent like my time earlier today just like swapping the top 5 all back and forth from really 3rd through 5th. I kept changing. But when looking at the Charmillionaires team, they have so much variety in what they can do. It's kind of scary. I'm not looking forward to playing them. But as far as their walls go, even though they have good walls, I've learned, especially firsthand from using Mega Venusaur, that it's best to not have to force your Venusaur to be a bulky variant. It's definitely obviously an option, but it's not preferable to like make him a tank option by default. And so when I look at his team, he doesn't have a ton of bulk. I mean, he has Aromatisse. I mean, he has Mew and Manaphy if he wants to run them bulky. But I guess when I look at his team, I'm not seeing a lot of wall options. He does have some options for speed as well. He definitely has some people who can set up with Dragon Dance or Shell Smash with Cloyster and stuff like that. So he has a lot of tools at his hand, but I think other than Rotom, he has no ground immunity. And I've always, and this is just a personal opinion, but I've always thought it kind of dangerous to have only a Levitate ground immunity and not a flying type, because when you have to play against somebody who has Mold Breaker, it really sucks. Especially if they're able to fire off those Earthquakes. But he does have the Fire, Water, Grass core, the Dragon Steel Fairy core. Unless I'm missing something. Yeah, he doesn't have an electric immunity either, so anybody who has a Pokemon who can Volt Switch on slower Pokemon can keep momentum away from him, which is kind of unfortunate too. But other than that, I mean, he has such a strong team, and it fits his playstyle really well. So I'm interested to see what he does with it. But guess we'll go ahead and go on to the 4th set of picks, or well, 4th place picks, and we'll start with Justifred.
Coming in at number 4, I have the Alakazam Apparitions. I love Heatran. I love Reuniclus. I love Mega Sceptile. I said it. I love Thundurus Sea. Azumarill with huge power. Trevenant's really underrated because it harvests that citrus berry all the time. Weavile's beautiful. Hitmontop is an underrated Pokemon with Intimidate. That thing can be so bulky. Now, I will say I struggle a little bit with Omastar and Garbodor. Fortress is a little tough at times, but man, this team is a scary team, and it has some walls in there that can be run different ways, which is always really scary too, because if you don't know what you're getting into, sometimes you can end up swept before you know what really happened to you. So yeah, I have this team up high, and I'm expecting big things from them.
All right, Big Dan.
For my number 4, I had the Richmond Raikous. The biggest thing I see is a pretty big ice weakness, but there are some very good Pokemon: Volcanion, Serperior, Landorus, Latias. Mega Scizor is the only real answer for ice, I feel like. I know Justified said this, but Mega Scizor, there's a lot of ways to get around him, I feel like. And you have Archaeops, Leopard, Avalugg, Pokemon that just aren't really playable, I don't feel like. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are some shenanigans you can run with them, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, Jasperious.
For my number 4, I have the Kentucky Krookodiles. And if it was any other person drafting this team, it would be a lot lower. I look at it and I go, what? Mega Gardevoir is fantastic. Torrentee is awesome. Jolteon's awesome. Arcanine's got a lot of power. Donphan's a good spinner. And then Vaporeon's just really good. I'm just... Where's your Umbreon? Where's Flareon? Come on, man. Gotta get the Eevee core.
Yeah.
But Kecleon, it can stop Rapid Spin with Shadow Sneak, but it's not bulky. Arcanine's really good. It's just like a Mod Podge of random Pokemon to me. Each with their own niches, but it's a matter of will you utilize them to their niches, and I think you will, which is why you're 4 and not like 8.
All right. For me, I had the Richmond Raikous, and for the Raikous, the thing is, this team on paper looks really kind of scary. He does have a bit of an ice weakness, which we've all already talked about, so I won't touch on that again. He has a versatile set of like different Pokemon that he can use, especially his like 5 OU Pokemon that are on... Well, he has 6. I mean, I keep forgetting about Clefable, and that thing's terrifying too. He has a strong set, but after that it kind of falls off. Zebstrika is good because even though it doesn't have the best like attack stats, it's still a fast electric type, and that's still in my book an important thing to have. The only thing is he doesn't have a ghost type. He has a fire water grass core, which is good. I just thought about how like he has a really good set, and I ended up putting him at 4th because some of his picks, though as strong as they are, don't have a ton of options for what they can run, so you can kind of expect what they're going to do. Specifically, Volcanion, Superior, Landorus, probably Latias, Mega Scizor for the most part, and you know, Clefable can do some shenanigans, so I'll give him that. But for the most part, to me it seemed like there was a lot of like predictability, which put him at 4th. So we'll go ahead and go on to number 3. Not Jasperious, Justified.
Can I point out that shenanigans is being said a lot? Okay. Number 3, I have Brandon. And I'm sorry, I have the Krookodiles. And like Chase, I will say, or Jasperious, I will say that a lot of these Pokemon, I am picking based on the coach here more than I am the players. A lot of these Pokemon run fun little things. They can catch you by surprise, but I feel like they do one thing and one thing only well. The exceptions to that rule are definitely Mega Gardevoir, Tornadus, Arcanine, Donphan, and Tangrowth. But besides that, I think all these Pokemon have to be played a certain way in order to be successful. And so the reason that it's so high is because you've always got something up your sleeve. And so I'm figuring that there's something I'm not seeing here. But I will say, like Chase, if this wasn't you playing this team, I would have it much lower.
All right, Big Dan.
I had myself at number 3, the Charmillionaires. I feel like I have a pretty strong team. Like you said, I feel like my biggest downfall is my walls. I got a few decently bulky Pokemon, but nothing that's a true wall. But I think I got some tricks up my sleeve, so we'll see how it goes.
All right, Jasperious.
At number 3, I have the Richmond Raikous, otherwise known as my team, the one that's weak to ice. I don't know what you guys are talking about with ice weakness, because I have Avalugg, the beast that is Avalugg, and You guys, it's not possible for that thing to die if you're hitting it with Weavile. So just remember that one. Uh, I didn't want Volcanion or Superior when I first bid them, so I had to change my entire draft around. And I feel like it worked out well. I've got a lot of really nice Pokemon. I have 6 OU Pokemon, and that's awesome for a draft like this. I will admit some of them are, kind of bad. I guess Archeops is kind of bad if it gets below 50% health, and Sock isn't that great. But I feel like I've got a formidable team, and that I have a couple tricks that hopefully will surprise some of the top players.
Well, I guess now it's my turn, so I will put for number 3 myself, aka the Krookodiles. So I look at my team and I'm really, I think I'm most excited to use this team that I have been before, because it's going to be kind of a challenge, like, for me to figure out what I have to do each week, as opposed to having some solid answers and stuff. So, like, I see that I don't have a dragon or a steel type, and that's kind of harsh on my team. If I had gotten Hydreigon like I planned, it would have turned out a lot better, but that didn't happen. So I also see that I'm a bit weak to rocks, even though I have some answers. What else? I don't have any ghost types either, which was kind of something I wasn't enjoying entirely. I do have at least Scolipede to have the immunity to toxic. And the one thing that I'm really excited about this is that almost, let's see, except for 3 Pokemon, so 9 out of my 12 Pokemon can be run in multiple ways in my head, just off the top of my head. And I'm really excited to, like, experiment and, like, try all these things that people aren't going to expect. And just the unpredictability of my team, I feel like, is my greatest strength here. So I'm excited to see what happens with it. And maybe I fail. I don't know. But I'm really excited to try it out. So going on to the second picks, Justified.
At number 2, I have Justified 18 because I'm Zubatman, or me. I thought that my draft went really well. I'm excited about Mega Pinsir. Excited about a lot of the Pokemon that I got. The reason that I feel I have some weaknesses is there's not a whole lot of priority on my team. And not only that, some of the Pokemon that I drafted I don't feel fit incredibly well with the rest of it. So I'll say I think I've got a good team. I am by no means saying that I'm invincible, because there are some definite scary teams this year, and I am looking forward to playing it.
All right, Big Dan.
I have the Krookodiles at number 2. I think there are a lot of different ways you can bring different Pokemon on this team. Like you said, it's not predictable. All of your Pokemon are playable, and they all can do some little different things. So. And you always have tricks up your sleeve, so I'm excited to play your team. But, yeah, I want to see how you run some of these Pokemon.
All right, Jasperious.
For my second pick, I decided to go with the Charmillionaires on this one. I find it very funny that 2 of the people in the call, I'm not going to name names, decided to switch their Megas. And I mean, that's cool and all. I find it very scary. I've seen what the Charmillionaires could do with Mew. I've seen Manaphy's offensive power. It's really scary to me to see all the great Pokemon that he's got. Like the worst Pokemon I could see would be Hitmonlee or Aromatisse, and even Hitmonlee can get really fast with Unburden. So it's pretty scary, and I'm looking forward to battling them.
All right, and then for my second pick, I had the Alakazam Apparitions. So you guys did bring up a couple good points about some weaknesses that he has, but I'm honestly, this is, even though it's the second pick, I'm probably most scared to face this team in the entire draft. He's got a Firewater Grass Core, Dragon Steel Fairy Core, all very solid amongst those who are involved in those cores. He's got all the immunities and all the essential types that I've mentioned previously. He doesn't have any real consistent weaknesses. I mean, you could say maybe Earthquake, but or Ground, I guess. But I just feel like in general he's got a really solid lineup, and most of his Pokemon are quite usable. And having experience with about half of those Pokemon in the draft format, and then the other half being so viable, I'm interested to see what he does with it. I don't see any true glaring weaknesses. His team is kind of a bit slow, but he's a lot of variety as far as what he can use each week. And he doesn't have a ton of physical walls. He has Fortress and Heatran, but they have their vulnerabilities that can be exploited with hidden power. And so that's probably the only thing I could really point out there, along with what you guys have already mentioned. So, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and go on to the first picks for each person. So, Zubatman.
Coming in at number one. Yeah. Coming in at number one, I have the Charmillionaires. I say that because we have Sableye, who's a scary prankster, Mega Venusaur, who hits like a tank and also can absorb hits, Chandelure, scary, Rotom-Wash, scary, Galvantula, scary, Cloyster, scary, Tyrantrum, scary, Cobalion, scary, Mew, scary, Manaphy, scary, Aromatisse, not so scary. But even Hitmonlee's pretty scary with Unburden, High Jump Kick, Unburden. I mean, this team, you have to be careful with every single one of these Pokemon, and that is exactly the way that Daniel likes it when he plays. So I'm going to name them at number one, and then I'm going to drop them down to number two after I kick their butt this week.
All right, Big Dan.
I had Zubatman at number one. I think it's crazy to say that his worst Pokemon is probably Gourgeist. Everything else, he's got Mega Pinsir, who I've seen from experience is a stud. Chansey, I don't know how he got those two so cheap. Powdon, Empoleon, Hydreigon, I love Ditto. Terrakion. I just feel like he's got a very, very solid all-around team. Not a lot of holes.
All right, Jasperious.
As scary as the Charmillionaires team is, I find Zubatman just to be a little bit scarier just because he's got such a wall presence in Hippowdon, Zapdos, and Chansey. He's got great Pokemon. Ditto is so unpredictable. Terrakion's a powerhouse. Mawile, we haven't seen that before. I'm hoping that it's going to be really unpredictable, especially with huge power. Maybe he can slap a scarf on it or something and deal some massive damage. I'm really excited.
Huge power, non-mega form.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, it gets Intimidate and Hyper Cutter.
Oh, man. Never mind. I take back what I said about Mawile. It can go burn.
Oh, gosh. That was drastic. All based on one ability.
Well, yeah, I just find it very formidable. Especially with Mega Pinsir and its quick attack. That is now flying type because it's Mega. Yay.
Alright, so my number one pick also was Zubatman. And the only thing that I can say against this team, I think it's literally the only thing, is that it does not like ice weaknesses, or it does not like ice type. And Chansey and Empoleon pretty much take care of that. So like even saying that, it's still like hard to like really count that against it. I mean, he has both cores that I've mentioned before in Fire, Grass, Water, or Fire, Water, Grass, Dragon, Steel, Fairy. He's got all the immunities and essential types that I've talked about. He's got options for physical and special walls. He's got hazard setters, hazard removal on multiple Pokemon. He's got decent priority in Mega Pinsir and Ambipom. And he's also just got some fast Pokemon as well as his bulky, slow Pokemon. He is kind of weak to fighting as well, but obviously Mega Pinsir and Zapdos take care of that, as well as Gourgeist. So this team is just so well balanced, even though it has like those few things that I mentioned. It's just such a solid set of Pokemon that even with those, it's just hard to know what to prepare for, because he could bring anything and anything would be good against your team, I feel like. So that's my number one pick, and that also is the end of our power rankings. I guess before we actually head out, we can each just kind of say how we thought the draft went, or anything else that stuck out to us that we want to add to as a closing remark or anything like that. So I'll go first, and then we'll go in the same order after that. So, man, I think this draft just proves that people are really learning. It also shows that I think that our new coaches have a lot of potential. I'm really excited to see what they do. I'm also really excited to see especially the Alakazam apparitions and the Laprases, both of those teams. I'm really excited to see what they do, because the Alakazam apparitions improved a lot last season, and they have an even stronger team now. Then the Lapras, being a new coach, has a really solid team to work with. And if he has any sort of similar skill or play style to the Wobbuffets, then he's going to have a really good season. So I just think that the draft in general was really good. And honestly, a lot of these rankings that each of us put probably could have been shifted quite a bit. But that's why these are preseason power rankings. We're only basing it off of what we see and what we know about the person to this point, and we would be happy for anyone to prove us wrong about where we put them. Justified?
Overall, I think the draft went really well. I thought everyone did a good job. So all I have to say at this point is emus suck, and they're going to ruin Pokemon.
All right, Big Dan.
I also felt like the draft went very well. I feel like everybody kind of prepared well, and everybody adjusted their team pretty well during the draft. So, because I know not everybody got exactly what they wanted, but I feel like a lot of teams got a lot of really good Pokemon out of it.
All right, and Jasperious?
I feel like this draft is probably one of our strongest ones yet. I'd go on a limb and say even stronger than last season when we had Ubers. I'm stoked. I'm really excited to see how everyone's progressed. I'm really excited for our new players. And if you heard that sneeze, that was my cat. I'm just really, really excited for this new season, and I hope everyone exceeds our expectations.
Yeah, man. This season's going to be great. I really think everybody's going to have a good opportunity. Despite some of the things that we may have talked about weak points, I think all teams have weak points, and we'll all learn our own this season. but I think everybody has a good enough draft to handle those the right way if they plan accordingly. So I hope everybody, learns from what we talked about, maybe helps them prepare for their first week of matches, and also helps them think about what they can plan for against their opponent. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next week for the Week 1 recap. Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want, subscribe for more videos. Hope to see y'all in the future, and thank you for watching.